They told us it was an accident. A tragic collision. A ship, too large, too confident, meeting an iceberg in the cold darkness of the Atlantic. But what if that version of the story was never meant to be questioned? What if the sinking of the Titanic was not simply a maritime disaster, but a carefully constructed narrative, one designed to conceal something far more unsettling? For over a century, the official explanation has remained largely unchanged. A luxurious ship, deemed unsinkable, meets its fate on its maiden voyage. Over 1,500 lives are lost. The world mourns. The story ends. But stories like this rarely end where they claim to, because beneath the surface, buried under layers of reports, testimonies, and controlled information, there are contradictions, patterns, gaps that refuse to close, and where there are gaps, theories begin to grow. Some call them conspiracy theories. Others call them inconvenient truths. Tonight, we examine 4 of the most disturbing possibilities surrounding the sinking of the Titanic. Not as fiction, not as fantasy, but as questions that were never fully answered and pedubs never meant to be. Long before the Titanic ever touched the water, some believe its fate had already been sealed. Not by engineering flaws, not by human error, but by something far older. Something carried aboard. Among the many pieces of cargo rumored to be transported on the Titanic was an artifact said to possess a dark and violent history, a mummified body from ancient Egypt, often referred to as the unlucky mummy. According to accounts that surfaced after the disaster, this artifact was no ordinary relic. It was believed to belong to a woman of high status, possibly a priestess or noble, figure whose remains were sealed with inscriptions warning of misfortune and death to those who disturbed her. Over time, stories began to circulate. Owners of the artifact allegedly suffered accidents, sudden illnesses, financial ruin, even death. The pattern was always the same: contact, followed by catastrophe. The British Museum, where the artifact was reportedly held, is said to have displayed only a replica, while the original remained hidden, locked away due to fears surrounding its reputation. And yet, some claim it was secretly transported, wrapped, concealed, smuggled, placed aboard the Titanic without public knowledge. If true, this raises an unsettling possibility. What if the iceberg was not the cause, but the consequence? What if some force guided the ship toward its fate? Skeptics dismiss the idea as superstition, but even skeptics must admit there are events in history that defy simple explanation. And sometimes, belief is shaped not by evidence, but by patterns that refuse to be ignored. Official record states that the Titanic sank in a time of peace. No war, no conflict, no enemy. But what if that assumption was wrong? A second theory suggests that the Titanic did not sink because of an iceberg, but because it was attacked, specifically by a German vessel. Some survivors reported hearing sounds that did not match the slow tearing of metal against ice. They described explosions, sharp, sudden, violent. Others claimed to have seen distant lights unidentified moving across the horizon. At the time, these accounts were dismissed as confusion, panic, or misinterpretation. But alternative interpretations began to emerge. Could it have been a covert military operation? A hidden act of aggression carried out under the cover of darkness? While official timelines place German submarine warfare years later, proponents of this theory argue that secret operations could have existed long before they were publicly acknowledged. And if that were the case, the Titanic may not have been an accident at all, but a target, a symbol, or perhaps a warning. The question remains: if there was nothing to hide, why were these testimonies not fully investigated? Why were they quietly set aside? And why does the idea of an external attack continue to resurface, even today? Even today? If the first theory points to the supernatural, and the second to hidden warfare, the third suggests something far more calculated. Something human. Something deliberate. This theory centers around a powerful and controversial idea that the Titanic was intentionally doomed. To eliminate specific individuals, among the passengers on board were several of the wealthiest and most influential men of their time. Men with influence over global finance. Men who reportedly opposed the creation of a centralized banking system in the United States. Men who did not survive. At the same time, other powerful figures who were originally expected to board the Titanic canceled their trips at the last moment. No clear explanation. No urgent reason. Just absence. To some, this is coincidence. To others, it is pattern, because shortly after the tragedy, a significant shift occurred in the financial world. A central banking system was established. Opposition had vanished. Resistance removed. The implication is chilling. What if the Titanic was not just a ship, but a stage? A controlled environment, a place where certain outcomes could be ensured without immediate suspicion, and if that is true, then the iceberg was never the real cause. It was merely the cover story. Perhaps the most unsettling theory of all is the one that questions everything we think we know. What if the ship that sank was never the Titanic? To understand this theory, we must look at another vesselitz. Near-identical twin, the Olympic, built by the same company, designed with almost identical specifications. But unlike the Titanic, the Olympic suffered damage, serious damage. Following a collision with another ship, the Olympic required costly repairs. Legal battles followed. Insurance complications arose. Financial pressure began to build, and then a possibility emerged. What if the damaged Olympic could be disguised, renamed, rebranded, and sent out as the Titanic? According to this theory, the switch was made before the maiden voyage. The real Titanic was kept safe. The damaged Olympic was sent out instead under a different name, and when it sank, insurance claims could be collected. Losses recovered at a devastating cost. Supporters of this theory point to subtle differences in design, in windows, in structure, in records that appear inconsistent. They also question the unusually short testing period of the Titanic before departure. Why rush such a massive vessel? Why skip thorough verification? Unless there was something to hide. If this theory holds even a fragment of truth, then over 1,500 lives were sacrificed. Not by accident, but by decision. For theories, for possibilities, each one challenging the official story in its own way. A curse carried from the past, an attack hidden in plain sight, a calculated removal of powerful figures, or a ship that was never what it claimed to be. So what really happened on that cold April night in 1912? Was it truly just an iceberg? Or is that simply the version of the story that was allowed to survive? History is not always written to reveal the truth. Some it seems it is written to protect it. And sometimes, the deeper you look, the more uncomfortable the answers become. Now the question is no longer what happened to the Titanic. The real question is, which version of the truth are you willing to believe? And more importantly, which one were you never supposed to question?